My husband and his lover died in a car accident, leaving me with a pair of twins. I had raised 2 children alone for 18 years. Now, as they get admitted to top universities, my heart swells with joy. Despite everyone's opposition, I insisted on keeping and raising the twins. Micah and Maxwell were always filial. They understood my years of effort in raising them, and promised that after graduation and securing good jobs, they would support me to enjoy my life. With their birthday just 2 days away, I considered how to celebrate. In the past, I always booked hotel rooms for their birthdays, but this year, I decided to combine it with their graduation party for a bigger celebration. I booked a ballroom at one of the city's best hotels. At the same time, I shared the news that my 2 sons were admitted to Ivy League colleges in the family group chat. The group soon buzzed with excitement. I briefly skimmed the messages and posted the party location to the group. After that, I turned off my phone notifications and quietly awaited the celebration. The birthday party was set for 2 days later, at 10 a.m. I arrived early at the hotel that morning to review the menu and ensure every detail of the party was perfect. Most attendees were relatives of the Parker family, but my parents were absent. Back then, I ignored their objections and insisted on adopting Anthony and Amber's children. When my parents found out, they were so angry that they almost had a heart attack. Even after so many years, they never understood why I chose to raise someone else's kids instead of leading a more secure life. Anthony's parents, Richard and Sophia, entered the hall, assisted by the crowd. They walked straight to the main table and sat down, where Anthony's brother and sister sat with their families. There were 8 people seated at the main table. They surrounded my sons, and the seat was so full that there was no seat for me. "Hannah, what are you waiting for? Hurry and get Mom and Dad some water," Lydia called out, grabbing some snacks from the table. Lydia was Anthony's sister. She had endured an unhappy marriage and domestic abuse, and she was criticized for not being able to give birth to a son. Now, at 40 years old, she had given birth to a boy, which made her walk with a newfound confidence. Micah and Maxwell attempted to get up to help, but were restrained by Richard and Sophia. "Micah and Maxwell, come talk to me," Sophia urged. "Look at how handsome the boys are, just like my brother," Lydia said. "They look more like Amber to me," Anthony's brother remarked. Richard and Sophia glared at him fiercely, and he quickly shrank back into his seat, not daring to say a word. I moved between the tables, serving food and pouring wine. Micah and Maxwell couldn't bear it any longer, and added a chair between them. They pushed me into my seat and said, "Mom, our birthday is your day of suffering. Sit down and take a rest." This prompted a shift in the room's atmosphere. Lydia smirked. "Hannah, my brother would be thrilled to see his son raised so well by you." Richard coughed lightly, effectively silencing her. "Hannah, today is such a nice day. I have something to discuss with you," Sophia said, her eyes sparkling. "Go ahead," I replied. Sophia continued, "Micah and Maxwell are going off to college soon. It'll be empty for you in that 3-bedroom apartment. When they start school, Richard and I will move in, and I'll cook for you while you work." So that was her plan. My parents had initially put a down payment on the house I lived in, intending to add Anthony's name. 6 months into our marriage, he took a drive with Amber and had a fatal car accident, and both of them died. When I saw him again, he was just a handful of ashes. My parents had helped me pay the mortgage, so the property was solely in my name. Now, as my children grew up, Richard and Sophia were eyeing my house. I explained, "Mom, it's not that I won't let you live there. Micah and Maxwell will be studying abroad. That's why I've sold the house and will downsize to a 1-bedroom apartment, using the rest for their education." Richard's face turned pale. He slammed the table. "As a part of the Parker family, why don't you discuss such matters with us?" "I'm doing this for Anthony's children," I replied, feigning surprise. Richard continued, "What about the money from the house sale? You can give it to Sophia. She will save it for you. I'm worried about your extravagant spending. In the past, as long as I claimed it was for the children's benefit, they usually remained quiet. But today, Richard and Sophia's demeanor suggested I was now expendable with my sons heading to college. Thinking of this, I said calmly, "I've instructed my lawyer to deposit the money into a growth fund. Micah and Maxwell will receive $10,000 monthly until they turn 40. Richard's furrowed brow finally relaxed at that. He said, "Good to see you're thinking ahead and leaving money for my grandchildren. You don't need to buy a house, just rent one, and don't waste the money." As the chatter continued, the hotel manager approached and handed me the microphone. He said, "Today is your son's birthday and graduation party. As their mother, I'd like to ask you to share a few words and some insights." Taking the microphone, I began, "Thank you all for attending Maxwell and Micah's graduation party. Today, my sons have been accepted into Ivy League colleges. It'll be a pity if their biological parents are not present on such a significant day." Before I could finish, a commotion interrupted me. A man and a woman entered arm in arm. I looked up, and despite the 18 years that had passed, instantly recognized them, my late husband Anthony, and his beloved Amber. The hall buzzed with murmurs. Richard and Sophia, seated at the main table, showed no excitement at seeing their son returned from the dead. Instead, they calmly invited Amber to sit beside them. Anthony, who had been dead for 18 years, approached me. He said, "Hannah, you may not be a good wife, but you've been a good mother." My sons, finally breaking free from their shock, looked confused. "What's going on?" Anthony pointed at Amber and said, "Amber is your biological mother. Hannah couldn't have children. If she hadn't refused to divorce me and threatened me to commit suicide back then, our family wouldn't have been torn apart for 18 years. Before I could defend myself, the Parker family members turned to my sons. "He's right. It was Hannah's refusal to divorce that kept you from your birth parents for 18 years. Don't think Hannah treated you well. She didn't have the best intentions. intentions. Well, now that you're grown and have been admitted to Ivy League colleges, the family can finally reunite. Micah and Maxwell stood frozen, unsure of how to react. Amber wailed, taking their hands and showing them her phone. I'm your biological mother. I send you gifts every year. I even sneak in to see you after school. As she spoke, she turned to me and added, Hannah, thank you for raising my two sons so well. Anthony wrapped his arm around her shoulders and looked at me with a hint of sarcasm. He demanded, you and I are getting a divorce. After 18 years, I'm marrying Amber. Everyone thought I would disagree, or even make a scene. But facing the discussions and inquiring eyes of dozens of people from the Parker family, I laughed. Okay, I agree. I'll file for divorce tomorrow and reunite your family. My words stunned the audience. They couldn't believe I would give away the sons I had raised for 18 years. Even Anthony and Amber stared at me in disbelief. They thought I would throw a tantrum and cry, but didn't expect me to agree so readily. Anthony looked at me in disbelief and asked puzzledly, are you out of your mind? I replied directly, what? Not happy about it? Amber quickly pulled on Anthony's arm, and he, fearing I might change my mind, retrieved a divorce agreement from his bag. He said, then sign the divorce agreement. From now on, Micah and Maxwell have nothing to do with you, and you can't see them again. Without reading it, I signed, Mom, you don't want us anymore? Micah and Maxwell looked at me, hurt and confused by my quick compliance. Amber tucked the agreement away and said complacently, Hannah, thank you for making us whole. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be so carefree out there. Looking at her two tall sons, Amber grinned with a proud smile. Okay, there's nothing more for you to do here. Just go. Richard waved me off impatiently. I said, now that the agreement is signed, it's time to tell you the truth. What do you mean? Amber asked, confused. I sighed with relief. After 18 years, it was finally over. I clapped my hands and called to the door. Come in. Moments later, two figures entered the hall.